starting a new topic for the week. So let's join together in the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kichanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who sanctifies us with commandments and commands us to count the Omer. And we announce the day of the Omer, first in Hebrew, Hayom Shisha Ushloshim Yom Shehem Chamisha Shavuot V'Yom Echad LaOmer, which means that today is the 36th day, which corresponds to 5 weeks and 1 day of the Omer. So this week we are going to be talking about our relationship to animals and the Jewish value, the phrase that we use to encompass the Jewish value is Sa'ar Ba'alei Chaim, which usually gets translated as something like avoiding harm to animals or avoiding suffering of animals, something like that. And the value, that phrase, Sa'ar Ba'alei Chaim, doesn't actually show up in the Torah, but it's very much based on different Torah texts that we'll jump into later this week, talk about. But it's that phrase comes from later rabbinic texts where they're talking about those Torah texts. So very much a Torah value, even though it's not specifically named in the Torah as Sa'ar Ba'alei Chaim. And tonight we're going to start off by thinking a little bit, sort of like a broad perspective on how our relationship to animals and specifically animal cruelty plays into climate change. And I want to share a letter from the project called Values and Voices. If you have not checked out Values and Voices, you should go back and check it out. So valuesandvoices.com is the website. And basically for the first 100 days, so the project just finished a few days ago, for the first 100 days of the new administration, a group of scholars shared one letter each day with the administration, so 100 letters over 100 days. And the idea of the project is that the letters are written by people of all sorts of faith traditions who are scholars that study and teach different religious traditions, and they're coming from the perspective of believing that as people who study religious texts, that they have something really important to offer to the conversation of American values. And this project was started and has been run by two women, Lisa Weinberger and Andrea Weiss. Andrea Weiss is a rabbi who teaches at HUC, has done lots of amazing things. If you recognize that name, it is possibly from that really amazing green book called The Torah, A Women's Commentary by Eskenazi Weiss. Tamara Eskenazi, also a rabbi, also wonderful, and Rabbi Andrea Weiss are the people who wrote that or edited that commentary. And so she has brought a lot to our movement. So anyway, so this project, Values and Voices, I want to share a letter from day 92. And so this was April 21st, not that long ago. And this letter was written by Varen Soni, who is the Dean of Religious and Spiritual Life at the University of Southern California. And he is Hindu. And so he's sort of writing, he's writing from his faith tradition. And he's writing about animal cruelty and how it intersects with the climate disaster. So I'm not going to read the whole letter, but I want to share part of it, which comes after he's sort of naming that we have all these global catastrophes in our recent memory that we've been experiencing. And then he writes to President Biden and Vice President Harris and the members of the 117th Congress. He writes, "Moving forward, my hope and prayer is that as human beings, we will fundamentally change our relationship with animals. Over the course of my lifetime, many of the significant infectious diseases that have plagued us, HIV, AIDS, SARS, Ebola, and now COVID-19, were caused by the abuse of animals. And we also know that one of the largest contributing factors to catastrophic climate change is factory farming and the wholesale slaughtering of animals for human consumption. If we truly care about preventing the next infectious disease, and if we are really going to address the civilizational threat of catastrophic climate change, then we must act boldly and bravely with inspired leadership and the strength of our conviction. My Hindu faith teaches me that all sentient beings, including animals, have a soul, and that the soul is a reflection of the divine. That is why many Hindu deities are depicted in animal form, and why many Hindus do not consume meat. As Hindus, we believe that the earth is a manifestation of the goddess. As human beings, our duty is to protect the natural world by living and breathing nonviolence. As leaders of the most powerful nation in human history, I implore you to reconsider the policies that contribute to the abuse of animals and the destruction of our planet. Our very survival depends on it. Um, so I thought this was a very well written letter, and shout out to TBT Green team member and my mom, Robin, for highlighting this letter for me. Um, and I think I've talked before about how there's a lot to be gained by being open to uh, receiving wisdom from different traditions, other faith traditions. And so I think this is a perfect example where the Hindu faith has a teaching about our relationship to animals, and Judaism also has teachings about our relationship to animals. And do they overlap 100%? No, uh, I'm sure not. But they're actually, in many ways, I think a lot of what Varen wrote was um, could have been written by someone who's Jewish, and so um, absolutely, I think the tying in and the way we treat animals into this the climate change disaster is really wise. And at least for me, um, I know certain things. Like I know that eating meat is bad for the environment, and I know about the methane and all the horrible, the all those, like, I forget what he calls it, but the like factory farming and the all the like the wholesale slaughtering, he calls it, of animals for human consumption. And for me, I have often thought about that in terms of what it's doing to our climate, which is I think what Varen is pointing out is that's only part of the equation, because it matters. The impact it's having on the climate absolutely matters. And from his religious tradition, and I think probably from our religious tradition in many ways as well, it also matters that we are using animals um, as objects purely for our benefit. And the way that it is creating large scale abuse to animals, I think also it is really important to focus on as a Jewish value of avoiding suffering to animals. So thoughts, and I look forward to delving into this topic of our relationship with animals more